concludes questions for oral answer. I call on the government order of the day.
Adjourn debate on the Prime Minister's statement and the amendment proposed to it.
The Honourable Dr Jonathan Coleman.
Mr Speaker, it's a great privilege to be here making a contribution to the debate on the Prime Minister's statement. But first, with my Minister of Sport hat on, I would like to pay tribute to a great New Zealander, Brendan McCullum, the Black Caps captain, who will be retiring this Saturday, playing his 101st Test for New Zealand, 100 of them consecutive. A man who scored 14,000 runs in all forms of the game for New Zealand. He scored 11 Test centuries, and he has led that team fantastically well. And I think it's no euphemism to say he is a great New Zealander. And I see parallels, Mr Speaker, between the way Brendan McCullum approaches cricket and the way our Prime Minister approaches politics. Confident, assertive, on the front foot, inspiring. A man that people want to follow, Mr Speaker. Meanwhile, on the other side of the House, you've got Andrew Little cowering in the dressing room on all fours, looking for his groin protector, knowing that he's soon going to face another well-directed kick from teammate David Shearer. Mr Speaker, the contrast couldn't have been greater. Meanwhile, old Grant Robertson's been roly-polying off to Paris to learn about the future of work, and I hope he's learnt that there's more to work than sitting in Copperfields eating sausage rolls. But I think he has changed his form somewhat. I hope he's no longer sending strategy and comms expert Claire Curran off to the photocopier with old copies of The Economist to put together the manifesto. No, he's actually been writing some of it himself. And you have a look on the website. He's got his Future of Work commission, which he's putting together, and he's made a very interesting connection. He says, and he's written this himself, the big challenge for business is money. So Grant Robertson, he's finally made that connection between business and money. And you know what he thinks one of the answers for New Zealand businesses? It's crowdfunding. You just send out an email, you put it on the net, you send a tweet, and Mr Speaker, the money rolls in. But I tell you what, it's been a great summer for New Zealanders, yep, not just on the sporting field, but it's also in terms of the economy. We've got a growing economy, we've got real take-home wages growing by 3.1% over the last year, well ahead of the rate of inflation at 0.1%, 175,000 extra jobs over the past 3 years, and almost that number again coming into the economy by 2020. So, Mr Speaker, net migration through the roof. People want to actually come into this country, very different to when we had the previous government where people were leaving in droves. Unemployment, the lowest since 2009, the third highest employment rate in the world. Mr Speaker, there's a lot to be very, very pleased about. But what I want to know is, what's up with Phil Goff getting a special dispensation to oppose TPP? What's all that about? I would have thought the only person who needs a special dispensation would be Andrew Little, because he needs to be able to vote with the unions and against every former Labor leader who's still living. So you talk to Mike Moore, you talk to Helen Clark, they are all totally in favour of TPP. So what I want to know is, why can't Stuart Nash have a dispensation? Why can't Kelvin Davis have a dispensation? Why can't David Shearer have a dispensation? Because they know that this is a deal that actually opens up 800 million new consumers for New Zealand. It removes tariffs from 93% of our exports. It adds $2.7 billion to the economy by 2030. It's absolutely essential. And I want to know, why in the first week back in Parliament was there not one single question in the House from the opposition opposing TPP? Because they've gone on about it all summer. Why was it left to poor old Reno Tirakatni over there to be dragged out of the deep freeze on the back benches, to be thawed out? They put an electric charge to try and get a pulse and a brainwave. And then what's he talking about? Customs, the big issues. Mr Speaker, you'd really have to wonder what's going on there. And then, of course, you've got Annette King. She's terribly impressed with herself because she's the only person who actually wanted to be deputy leader, and they made her deputy leader. She spent 6 years trying to wreck the health system, just brought back from the brink. So, I mean, how can she speak with any authority on health? She's been criticised criticising us this week for asking for a 1% efficiency saving from DHBs. But you know what? When Labor were in government, they asked for an efficiency dividend automatically during their budget. So, Mr Speaker, if that doesn't make a spokesperson look hypocritical, I don't know what does. But I can tell you, the health system is going extremely well. An extra $4 billion in funding under this government, $400 million at the last budget. We are focusing on services for New Zealanders. It's about quality of services. So, you know, we've upped the rate of electives, 50,000 extra electives over our time in government, an extra 110,000 specialist appointments, 5,500 more doctors and nurses. What's Labor's strategy on health? Frankly, there isn't one. Their only answer is more money. And when they were in government, they doubled the budget, delivered 2,000 fewer operations and sent 800 people a year to Australia for cancer treatment. So, Mr Speaker, today in question time we were talking about free under-13s. And Labor hates that policy, Mr Speaker, because they know that actually they would have liked to take the credit for that, but in actual fact, it's us that have delivered it. So we are delivering for New Zealand families the best possible start in life. But there's a lot of things actually that Labor would like to secretly support, like a change of flag. I mean, as you know, that's actually their policy. That's their policy. But they just can't bear the fact that it's going to be someone else who gets to change it. And I want Grant Robertson to really get up and say that he doesn't want the New Zealand flag to change. So, Mr Speaker, there's a lot of good stuff going on right across the health sector. We're focusing on Christchurch, health in Christchurch, an extra $147 million per year. $147 million per year goes into the mental health ring fence there, up $23 million on when National came into government. The budget for the Canterbury DHB, it's now $1.37 billion. That's gone up $254 million under this government. And what we need to hear from the Labor Party is, do they have a plan for health? Because, Mr Speaker, I'm pretty sure there is absolutely no plan there for them. We've also tackled the tough issues, things like HBL. We've reformed that. That is now going to drive the back office savings, which are going to fund more operations, more medicines for New Zealand. Pharmac, $150 million of extra funding there during our time in government. We're very focused on providing the medicines that New Zealanders need. And what these guys need to explain, if their strategy on health is just more and more money, what's that going to do to their ability to maintain a surplus? Grant's shaking his head. I don't think he actually knows. Mr Speaker, I don't think he would actually have a clue how he is going to run the economy. So, Mr Speaker, when you look at it, the only party who can both manage the books and deliver better services for New Zealand is the National Party, and we are continuing to do that. So, Mr Speaker, if you look at obesity, what are Labor going to do? They have decided they are going to regulate the amount of sugar in your food. Well, I don't think that is actually going to be very popular with New Zealanders. So, yeah, rightio. So, Mr Speaker, what you can see there is an opposition in complete disarray. They don't like their leader. They haven't got a unified position on TPP. Actually, most of them would love to vote for it. And I think it'll be very interesting when this is voted on in Parliament. Will the Labor Party oppose it? Because I can tell you, if they do, they are headed straight for oblivion. Meanwhile, we have got a very busy program of work. We are focused on the issues that matter to New Zealanders. It's jobs, it's growth, it's education, it's definitely health, it's law and order. And I can tell you, if you'd been at the NRL Nines and you went out there amongst the people and you really saw the reception that John Key got, the Labor Party should be very, very worried.
Order.